And now another norm that Democrats are happy to shatter. Democrat candidates and incumbents across the country are running scared and away from debates because, as Victor said, they can't run on their record. They're not going to talk about rising crime rates, inflation, recession, certainly not the falling stock market. Have you looked at your 401k lately? None of that. In fact, they're so desperate to avoid any discussion of these inconvenient issues that several Democrats are either refusing to debate their Republican opponents or agreeing to only one debate very close to Election Day. In the Arizona governor's race, liberal Katie Hobbs appeared in a safe zone on Face the Nation to explain why she won't debate Kari Lake.
I have no desire to be a part of the spectacle that she's looking to create because that doesn't do any service to the voters.
Oh, really? Well, that's too bad. Think about that for a minute. Of course, the real spectacle is what is happening to Arizona under Biden's open border. It's a huge surge in crime there and homelessness. But defending her views on any of that, well, that doesn't do a service to the voters. What an insult. Another reason to vote straight ticket Republican in Arizona. And look at poor John Fetterman. I mean, that man should be home trying to get well. Instead, he's trying to stumble away from accountability for his positions on everything from ending cash bail to banning oil and gas. Uncle Festerman only agreed to one debate, and it's late on October 25th.
It's normal to have one debate in October, and that's exactly what was always the plan. But because he's been struggling in the race, he tried to turn this into an issue.
Struggling? Well, Oz wanted more debates earlier, noting that early voting started in the state in late September. But look, if I were a political consultant advising Hobbs and Fetterman, I'd be telling him to avoid debates too. I would. Change the subject immediately from the economy and crime to abortion, I don't know, Trump, climate change, whatever. Look, I get it. Their record is indefensible. What they're doing makes sense as a selfish political matter to avoid debates, but it's incredibly disrespectful to the voters. Speaking of disrespect, by the way, what New Hampshire incumbent Senator Maggie Hassan is doing to her state, it's just obscene. She's only holding about one campaign event a week. I kid you not. And of course, she won't agree to debate her challenger, Don Bolduc. Now, in New England, that's where I'm from, people used to pride themselves on vigorous debate. And in New Hampshire, who in the name of Robert Frost would think that a New Hampshire politician would even consider hiding from her own constituents? Hey, Mags, the state motto is live free or die, not let's flee and duck. You notice that beyond avoiding debates, by the way, liberals like Senator Hassan, they aren't even hosting public town halls either. They used to do that all the time. So voters don't get to ask her questions pretty much about anything. Certainly not on the issues they're getting hammered by, the policies she voted for. Families in New Hampshire now are being forced to go into debt big time just to afford the essentials. High inflation coupled with historic interest rate hikes have some New Hampshire residents relying on credit cards to get by. According to the Wallet Hub, the average New Hampshire household has more than $8,400 in credit card debt now. Now, this is heartbreaking. It's infuriating. I lived in Hanover, New Hampshire for 4 years in the 80s during college. And if you were a candidate who wanted to compete there, and a lot of them came through Hanover, you had to face the people. You had to answer a lot of questions. But now, with the you-know-what hitting the fan, they're going to give Maggie Hassan a pass? People of New Hampshire? How's that granted in your veins? When Americans are suffering, no politician should be able to skate to re-election without defending his or her record. Never should it be allowed to happen. And of course, today's media, well, they've been part of the protection racket, though, haven't they? They've gone from holding all politicians accountable to holding Democrats' coats. Joining me now is Stephen Miller, former senior advisor to President Trump, founder of America First Legal, and Miranda Devine, New York Post columnist, Fox News contributor, and author of my favorite, The Laptop from Hell. Stephen, now, I want to just focus for a moment on New Hampshire, okay? This is the live free or die state, okay? How can Maggie Hassan avoid debating her opponent and be taken seriously by anyone there?
Well, she shouldn't be. Only with the indulgence of the left-wing media is that even possible. Maggie Hassan has voted for every single radical left policy that is ruining the state of New Hampshire, for the open borders and the drugs that are destroying an entire generation, for radical gender ideology, for runaway inflation, for rampant crime. She's voted for all of it. Her voting record is indistinguishable from that of Bernie Sanders or Chuck Schumer. She's a hardcore leftist. She has nothing in common with the people of New Hampshire, and that's why she won't debate, and the media is letting her get away with it, and that is a travesty. The era of objective media, sadly, in this country is over.
Well, and Miranda, people's pocketbooks don't lie, do they? I mean, everyone knows they're getting poorer, the streets are getting less safe, and America's getting weaker under Democrat rule. Everyone knows that now. There's no debating that. And in New York, Governor Kathy Hochul, she's not been elected by the voters to her position. She's only agreed to hold a single debate. And of course, at the end of October, a lot of early voting has already taken place. A month of absentee voting, I think, about by then. So she refuses to be held accountable as well. I mean, I think that is de facto reason to vote against her.
It really is. And I think these very weak Democratic candidates are trying to use the Joe Biden strategy, and I guess it worked for him, so they figure why not for them? They're cowards, and they're letting down the voters. The voters are supposed to be doing the due diligence during the campaign to decide which candidate is going to do the best for them, which candidate has the policies that will solve the problems, particularly looking in New York. Crime is a massive issue, and Kathy Hochul refuses to even tell the voters how she will deal with the problem of bail, so-called reform, that is letting all these crazies out on the street. And she won't talk about that. And as she knows that as soon as she goes into a debate stage against Lee Zeldin, he'll wipe the floor with her, and that's why she's running away. But she wasn't elected, as you say, and she's like a lot of these Democrat candidates. John Fetterman's another one. Truly a hopeless candidate, unfit, special needs candidate, and he's only managing to stay upright because he's protected by the media.
Mm-hmm. And Stephen, even CNN was forced to report on how Democrats now view Biden's presence as we approach the midterms. Check this out.
What do we know about this president's plan in the final 4 weeks?
He's clearly not going to the races that matter the most to Democrats. We haven't seen him go to Arizona. It seems like John Fetterman doesn't really want him to appear with him in the final stretch of the race. He's not going to Georgia. So we don't know a whole lot.
Stephen, he's like an anvil with cement shoes on. I mean, this is not working out well for him on the trail.
Giant lead-weight anchor. But this is what's so astonishing, though, Laura, right? Is that every single Democrat, go through the list, Mark Kelly, Maggie Hassan, Tim Ryan, they're all trying to establish distance between themselves and Biden. While they spent the last 2 years as his most loyal soldiers, his most faithful servants, doing everything Biden wanted, everything Pelosi wanted, everything Schumer wanted. And what they're using is Wall Street money and Silicon Valley money to put ads on TV that are lying to voters about who they are. Every one of them and every other Democrat running is a down-the-line Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, Kamala Harris Democrat who has enabled every single policy from open borders to crime to inflation that is wreaking havoc on our country. And if our candidates can make that point, and the ones who get to debate have crushed their opponents by making those points, as Blake did, as JD did, they'll win.
Let me tell you about that, Stephen. I'm glad you mentioned that because tonight, JD Vance eviscerated phony populist Tim Ryan. Here's one of the many superb moments from JD. Check it out.
2 years ago, you supported banning fracking, both on public lands and generally speaking. That crushes the Ohio energy sector, and that's one of the reasons why manufacturers are going to China. Another reason Ohio manufacturers go to China is because the Chinese undercut American wages. The only way to really combat that is tariffs. 2018, 2019, and 2020, you opposed the tariffs that started to bring some of that manufacturing and industrial base back to Ohio.
If we had those Batman sound effects, it'd be like kapow, pow, zowie. I mean, he just floored him. This is why they don't want to debate.
It's exactly why
He
they
was
don't
brilliant.
want to debate.
And yeah.
Let's get Miranda. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. He was brilliant. You saw Blake Masters the other night, brilliant. Carrie Lake would be brilliant, and Lee Zeldin will be brilliant. So these Democrats, not only do they have no policies, not only do they have a terrible record and a president that's a lead weight, they also really don't have the ability to go head-to-head against these very formidable Republican candidates.
When they don't have the protection racket going with the media, they're just left on stage with their policy positions, and that's an ugly place to be right now. Miranda, Stephen, great to see both of you. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.